Hello lovelies, welcome back to my channel. The music that's playing in the background I'm planning on using for all my videos going forward. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. For some reason, this piano piece has been driving me crazy. I love it and I haven't figured out what I wanted to do with it, so I came up with this. So let me know what you think of it. Since Halloween is over, unfortunately, for many of us, I've decided to add some new content to my channel. What I'm planning on doing is combining horror and history together, since I am passionate about both of these subjects. How I plan on doing this is by discussing the history of each subgenre. So zombies, slasher films, religious horror movies, paranormal horror movies, and all of these different subgenres within horror. And I'm also thinking about talking about the history of horror as a complete whole. I may also include horrific events that have taken place in history, as well as individuals that have committed horrific acts. And to start this off, I decided to talk about religious horror in history, just to kind of get it out of the way, rip the band-aid off, since it is a controversial topic. We all have our own opinions, thoughts, and feelings related to religion. We're not getting into that in this video. I'm going to strictly just talk about what in history shaped this and how it kind of got started. So in the 1970s, a lot of cultural changes were causing people to question their faith. I mean, it's not anything new when you hear about the 70s. It was free love, free spirit. There were a lot of drugs during the 70s. So a lot of people were questioning their faith because people were kind of going wild during this time period. Now, when you look at the 50s, it was very conservative, very uptight. So when the 70s came along, people were kind of just finding this newfound freedom and running with it. And because of that, people were questioning their faith, what they were brought up with these strict morals and beliefs. And because of that, movies like Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, and The Omen, among others, were coming out. These movies showed potential hazards to blind faith in organized religion. And in Christianity, it has long been believed that children are pure and vulnerable, along with women. So these movies kind of turned that upside down. You have Damien, who's the Antichrist, and a child. Regan in The Exorcist is possessed by the devil. The children of the corn start worshipping this man. I forget what he's called, because it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, which is kind of going against what everyone else follows, from what I've read from reviews about what the movie is. And I've actually noticed through my research that most horror movies do depict some form of religion in them as well. And most of them are like undertones, they're not in your face. So with the 80s, when that came out, like when we reached the 80s, I should say, slasher films took off. And those have a lot of religious undertones if you really look at them. So you have this unkillable entity that kills all the sinners except the moral one. The one that doesn't partake in drugs, alcohol, or sex. However, these movies also show that God isn't there to protect you. An example of this is in A Nightmare on Elm Street. There's a cross on Nancy's bedroom wall, and right before Freddy tries to push through the barrier between dreams and reality, the cross leaps off of the wall and flies across the room, basically signifying that God isn't going to protect you from this evil entity that is tormenting you. It's all on your own to fight the evil that's affecting you. 7 also pushed that idea, and I know that didn't come out until the 90s, but still, it pushed that humans are on their own. So you have this serial killer that's killing people based on the 7 deadly sins, and God isn't stopping this man. It's up to 2 human detectives to fight evil, basically, and they fail, which just shows how humans are fallible. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. From there, I want to say roughly around the early 2000s, you started to see a change occur in the horror genre. And I think that's because of 9/11, which happened in 2001, September 11, 2001. We started to see a resurface of religious horror movies in a different form, though, than the 70s and 80s and even 90s. They had a different message to tell us. So you had the Exorcism of Emily Rose. The Conjuring films, of course, came out way after this. But you had Mirrors. You had The Possession. I forget what it's called, but I know there was like a diabuck box or something like that. I think that's how you pronounce it. Where a girl picks up the box from a yard sale and weird things start to happen and then she becomes possessed. You also have The Unborn, The Possession, The Last Exorcism, or Last Exorcist, something like that. The Rite, Deliver Us from Evil, Devil, The Devil Within. All of these different movies started to come out. And these movies had the message that God is good. He's here with his servants to help protect us and save us from evil, the devil. And because God is real, the devil is also real and causing chaos among humanity. However, these movies, besides telling us that God is here and protecting us through his servants, they kind of give that idea that humans are not at fault for what we do because the devil is doing it. For example, The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, kind of insinuates that Arnie should not have went to jail because he was possessed by the devil. Therefore, he should not be held accountable for his actions because the actions were not his own, they were the devil's actions. And they kind of also show that religion versus science with the Lazarus Effect. I want to say the remake of Flatliners as well. And even Splice kind of shows that along with The Fly. These movies also show a separation between science and church. Horror movies also make non-organized faiths evil. For instance, The Wicker Man, Sinister, the Conjuring films. I honestly, at first, when I first saw Midsommar, I thought it was just another cliche. I will be reviewing Midsommar next week, or next, yeah, actually next week. So stay tuned for that, because I kind of break it down to explain my initial thoughts and how they changed over my second viewing of the film. And not just movies have depicted non-organized faiths as evil. TV shows have done it as well. Supernatural and the new remake of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I'm actually going to have a link about the Sabrina the Teenage Witch in terms of what Wiccans and Pagans have thought of this TV show. And I think the reason why they villainize non-organized faiths is because they're not well known or understood by those who will follow an organized religion. It's easier to villainize something you know nothing about than to have respect for them. And I remember a classmate in my religion class, they made a statement that if a religion doesn't have a book, like a holy book, then they aren't a true religion. And to me that's very ignorant, because a lot of tribes were religious. They just didn't follow the traditional religions. So the natives, from what I understand, because my family is from native ancestry, they worshipped the Great Spirit and were very nature-based, which is similar to many pagans. They are very nature-based, along with Wiccans. And Wiccans do have a book. It's called the Book of Shadows. However, the Book of Shadows is individualized because no two Wiccans practice the same. Same with pagans. There is no right or wrong way to practice. It's all up to the individual how they practice. And that's why that statement kind of bothered me. The reason I wanted to discuss this, besides it being controversial and just to get it out of the way, is because one of my followers on Twitter posted a statement that someone else had made in the horror community about how religious horror isn't scary to those who do not believe in it. Well, I'm a non-believer. I'm pagan, so I see things through that lens. And I can honestly say that's not true. I do find some religious horror movies scary, while others I don't. So, for example, the Conjuring movie, the very first one, that's terrified me, I'll admit it. I was very uneasy after watching that movie. And the parts of it that I found the most terrifying was, and there's gonna be spoilers, I just want to let you know, Bathsheba appearing on the wardrobe, that freaked me out. Because your focus is on the little girl that keeps bumping into the wardrobe, that when the camera shows this creepy woman on top of the wardrobe, that just freaked me out. And then she jumps off. Yeah, totally freaked me out. Was not expecting it. And the possession scenes were unsettling and disturbing. And the girl, when she has her leg being pulled at night by an unseen entity, that freaked me out. And I still try to find the being that's hiding by the door. I still have not been able to see it, and it may not be there. If you have seen it, let me know. I've seen this so many times and I still have not seen it. The other films that are kind of terrifying that are part of the religious horror, I will say Devil actually freaked me out when I first saw it, and I saw it in theaters. Because I wasn't expecting this little old lady to be the devil, basically. It freaked me out. Hereditary wasn't scary to me. I know to others it was. It just wasn't my taste. So, it depends on the movie, I think. I don't think it has anything to do with beliefs. However, with that being said, I will say that movies like Seven, Saw, The Stranger, Scream, Aftermath, Hush, Haunt, You're Next, I See You, The Frozen Ground, and movies where regular everyday humans are the villain, I find far more terrifying than any supernatural entity. And it's because of that idea in your head the entire time you're watching that this is possible, this could actually happen in real life. I mean, people are getting murdered every day. Break-ins happen every day. People are getting viciously harmed every day. There's abuse, there's assaults, there's rape. There's children getting murdered and abused every day. So when you see it in these movies, all I sit there and see is something that could possibly happen in real life, which terrifies me. Knowing now how religion is spread throughout each subgenre in horror, I think anyone can find it terrifying. I will say, as someone who is pagan, who doesn't follow a organized faith, I do take offense, not like I'm really pissed off at this, but I do find it kind of offensive that paganism, Wicca, and those types of faiths are always demonized, so it's basically like we're lesser than Christians, Jewish people, the Jewish faith, I should say, the Muslim faith. We're lesser than them because they are never villainized. But the pagan faith, Wiccan faith, are always villainized. And it's frustrating for me because people believe what they see on TV about these religions, and they are so wrong. I have lost so many friends because of my faith, because of what they saw on TV. They thought what was on TV was accurate, and it's not. So I would honestly rather them educate people and not demonize a faith they know nothing about just to use as a scapegoat for fear purposes. I honestly think that all faiths should be treated equal. No one faith is better than another, in my opinion. I think it's just what people believe. It shouldn't be, well, mine's better than yours because whatever. Because honestly, religion is just here to make us feel better about death. That's really what it boils down to. So, that's just how I feel. With that said, I still like some religious horror movies, and I do still have favorites with the religious horror movies. Like, Sinister is actually one of my favorites, even though it's a fictional pagan deity that is the villain in the story movie that was used for their fear tactic. I still think Bagul is terrifying as hell. I mean, this being corrupts children to commit such violent, vicious acts against their families, who they're supposed to love and adore, and they just brutally murder them all. So, but I still like him, like, for that aspect, because it's absolutely terrifying to think about. Some being able to manipulate children to turn dark, basically. So, do you think religion is prominent in horror? Did you find anything surprising? What do you think about the person's statement that religious horror is only scary to those who believe in it? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to know your thoughts and opinion on this subject. And I'm not trying to offend anybody or anything like that. I'm just going by my own thoughts on the topic and what I have found. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for my review of Midsommar next week. If you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons at the bottom. And if you don't want to miss out on any new content, don't forget to hit the bell icon. Thank you so much again for watching. Take care until next time.